Hello, everyone. Sorry, I don't know why I felt surprised by that. It feels like, I knew it was coming. Yeah,
Where did that camera come from? What is?
it was more literally just as we went, as I pressed the kind of start button, Peter was like, I've asked for terminal access, and I pressed go, and it just sort of cut me out midway through saying, like, I've given. So, yeah, I shouldn't be so surprised that when I press a button, it does the thing I expected it to do. But hey, here we are.
Well, it's just,
Hey, Pete.
the run up to today's episode at the very normally so for folks who have watched us,
Or was
we're
this just
usually
behind the
connecting
curtains?
an hour before, and we sort of chit chat, and we kind of, despite the fact we still manage to talk for usually about half an hour, we try and get some of that out of the system before we actually start this thing. And I had some work to do, so I couldn't join a full hour before. In fact, it was more like 20 minutes. So I'm feeling super rushed, and I feel like that's also and maybe that surprised Paul. I don't know.
It's I didn't help in any of the preparation by not sending you the link to dial in. So I just expect you to magically appear. So hey Pete, and hello everyone watching along. As ever, give us a wave, say hello, let us know where you're watching in from. How's Peter this week, apart from just having finished a meeting and having rushed across?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, I've got a regular job now. I've got work to do. But it's fun. I'm loving the team. We had a leadership offsite, which funnily enough was like a mile from my house, the place that we all kind of met up, which,
Oh, nice.
yeah, it was actually, it made it really an easy commute, I didn't have to fly in or anything like that. And what's weird is when it was all done, as I was leaving, it felt like I'd been in a completely different country in a way, not
Yeah,
just down the street from my house. So,
that's cool. I when I was running the last company I was at, Cloud Galacticos, one of the things that I was very, very big on was that every 6 weeks, myself and the rest of the board should meet somewhere to just have a day focused away, just going through a laundry list, but also just kind of shooting the breeze. And then
yeah.
every quarter, because we had a team of about 35 people all spread over the UK.
Mhm.
So every quarter I was like, let's get everyone together, because just being in a location together, as you say, even if you're not actually in a different country,
Right.
it just changes the way you're looking and feeling about working. So yeah, makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and
So
the Salesforce Ben team do that as well, where I think it's every other month, maybe, or maybe quarterly. Like everyone's in the office for a couple of days. There's a evening dinner, some fun stuff, as well as some fun work, but in close proximity. And I think that's super valuable. I think it's one of the best things about a company this size, that you still can do that. So
mm,
yeah.
it's I was chatting to Kieran Fitzgerald the other week, who is one of the organisers of Irish Dreaming.
Oh, okay.
And I've also got a podcast episode coming out in a few weeks' time with Christy Fedora.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and in both of them, we were talking about kind of remote work, and how one of the interesting side effects, I think, of the pandemic and of remote work in general is how much harder it's made it for new starters in any organization, particularly new starters on the in the Salesforce context, new admins, new developers, whatever, to get up to speed, because you don't have the same face time. When I first started doing Salesforce myself many, many moons ago, I was very lucky that I lived 20 minutes away from the financial force office. I could walk in every day, come rain predominantly, or the occasional bit of sunshine. But there was a good, really smart team of people there. The likes of Carolina and Andy and Stephen Wilcock, Andy Fawcett, Stephen Wilcock, and a bunch of others who, I wouldn't just pester, but you had the ability, if you were really stuck on something for sort of half an hour, to be like, hey guys, can I just have 5 minutes just to point at where I'm being an idiot? And I think that the switch to remote work or predominantly remote work or hybrid work has really kind of dented that, because it's a lot harder to get people's attention. And there's no real substitute for just being sat next to someone and kind of interacting in that way. So
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
interesting side effect.
Yeah, and I try and think back to like my early jobs and just how important that was to kind of be in proximity to other people and like the opportunity to go out for a beer after dinner, after, work, once or twice a week.
Grab
Yeah,
lunch together.
lunch together, like all of those things were so valuable. And I think, just building people skills in a way, because that wasn't necessarily something that I had loads of when I first showed up to a work site, was like sort of how to relate to folks at work. And just being there and getting it wrong and, learning and watching other people and like all those things. So valuable. I mean, it's going to be different, and I'm sure like there'll be positives to this as well, but it's hard having, started my career that way, imagining like what my life would have been like without it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it's also that thing that the kind of where it got me thinking was so. I can only speak for myself here, but if I was looking to go back into kind of a more 9 to 5 working for someone else rather than working for myself, um, one of the things that I would not want to do is to have to go into an office every day. And I'll be very honest and say my thoughts generally are, if someone said to me, Paul, we want you in the office a day a week, even. In fact, I had a few years ago, I had an interview with, or early round interview with the BBC, who were hiring for it was a head of data analytics. So basically, I'd have got to do cool data science stuff on iPlayer and sounds and all these other things.
That would be super
Um,
cool.
yeah, it was a really interesting, cool sounding job. But the thing that made me say no was they wanted me. So I live in the northeast of the UK, or someone from Newcastle told me I don't, but I live in Yorkshire, which is a northeastern part of the UK. And their offices are in Manchester. They wanted me there 2 to 3 days a week, and I
Yeah.
was like, and I could do it on the train if I wanted to. I looked at like renting. I looked at buying a flat over there. I looked at staying at my in-laws who live not too far away. And after all that, I was like, yeah, there's no point me getting that job and then being away from my wife and all of these things. So yeah, it's even if someone was to like, I've got to only go like half an hour into the office every
Yeah.
2-3 times a week. Currently, that would put me off. But then I was thinking about it. I was like, well, actually, if I was going into a bigger team like that, I think it's almost kind of incumbent and beholden upon senior people to perhaps remember what it was like when they started out and think, actually, how are these junior people going to learn? How are they going to get that advice and things if the senior people aren't in there?
And I was thinking about it. I mean, how I got into coding was because I was working for a small company that was building and supporting a point of sale system.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I got interested in actually writing code was I was sitting a desk or two away from the software developer. And, if I was running into a problem, he would actually just like sort of open up the source code and start to show me what was going on within it. And like that just got me like really fascinated with like, how does that work? And that moved on to, I got some access. I was able to look at the source code, and so I'd start to like hunt down where, if there was a line number or something like that in some error that would come up, I might actually go and look for it, and I would sort of like point it out. And then I just had an opportunity to do some. It was actually just a very basic access database that we were tracking bugs in, and that just needed a little bit of tweaking and some customization. And that was the first time I sat down and wrote some code. Like, so I don't know that would have happened if I wasn't sitting like right next to
Mm-hmm.
that software engineer who was building the point of sale software.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much of that. When my first job I did a lot of programming work before I went to university and had programming jobs in offices, but was really kind of the sole actual developer there, and it was more kind of half IT support, half development. But my first kind of development job out of university, just sitting there and hearing someone say, "Oh, have you written a test for it?" Me be like, "What's a test? You mean in a document?" And then be like, "No, there's this thing called unit testing." Like, and just stuff like that, which you don't. I didn't do I didn't do computer science at university, so I had none of that knowledge. And like, talking about what an ORM was and kind of showing you these things, it makes a huge difference.
What's this funny thing called test?
Yeah, it's this funny thing called quality control, and I've never heard of it. If anyone wants to hear more about Peter's journey into the ecosystem, by the way, Peter was on the podcast a month or so ago now, maybe a bit longer than that.
Oh,
but,
it's more like 2, I think.
Time
at least
flies
it was
when we're having
recorded.
fun.
It felt like 2 months ago, but yeah.
Yeah, it probably was. Anyway, so I put a link to that in the comments, but you can also just click the podcast link on the channel and find out all of the episodes and subscribe to stay up to date to the episodes as well as they come out. Next week will be, in fact, our episode with Andy Fawcett coming along, which
that's exciting.
yeah, Andy's. I mean, I'm looking forward to having Andy on the podcast on the stream. But yeah, Andy. It was I don't listen back to all the episodes all the time because there's 2.5 hours of my own voice there somewhere, like in some of them, and I don't need that. But the one with Andy was like, there was some nice touching moments in it, and there was a lot of like interesting things out of there that I didn't know about Andy, and having known him for about 15, 16 years now, it was nice just to kind of catch up, because I think it's the first time I've got to sit down with him for a couple of hours since we stopped working together, because it's normally just
that's a long time ago.
Well, it's World Tours and Dreamforces and things like that where you get to grab a beer together. We went out for lunch the other week, and it was again nice just sitting down for an hour and catching up with an old friend. And obviously part of it was talking Salesforce, and he gave me this very lovely little Heroku Lego man.
Oh, I've got one of those actually.
Little Salesforce laptop.
Oh, which one let me go see. I'll be right back.
Yeah, it was just nice catching up with people and catching up with friends. So if you want to listen to more of Peter's journey, definitely
so I'm going the route of like maybe there'll be collector's items and I'm keeping them in their little plastic cases. But there's this one also.
Oh, I didn't get the white one. No, I got the cool hoodie one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got the black background blurred because I've got some stuff for a client written up on the whiteboard that not. I mean, it's fairly generic still, but I'm just like, I'm sure somewhere I've written something that someone should read. I also got a nice Heroku pencil case from him as well, and a bunch of stickers.
Nice. So. I've got like a Heroku Kodi that I got from TDX that I meant to take to the developer group this week and then forgot, but I'm kind of done. Like I've got like a plushie back here, I think. Yeah, I've got the Yeti Astro, and like that's good for me. I think I'm done. I've like given away everything else.
Salesforce plushies.
What's that?
I don't have a Salesforce plushie at all. I have Scooby.
Oh, that's good.
Who was from my time at Mavens.
Nice.
And he has got a little Cody badge on. Where are we? He's got a Cody badge, and what was the dog called? I'm really bad with the names.
Oh, Blaze?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it was Blaze.
Yeah, he's called Scooby because there was one of the team there had a dog called Scooby, but I also use him for duck debugging. So, are you familiar with rubber duck debugging?
I'm familiar with rubber duck, and I was wrong. That was actually Koa, the dog. Blaze was the.
Oh yes.
Yeah, Koa was that dog.
So rubber duck debugging, for those who aren't aware, is if you are stuck on a problem, and this is really good. Before AI agents were a thing. There you go. So rubber duck debugging is if you're stuck, what you do is you take a deep breath and you explain what you're trying to do and how you've gone through it to your rubber duck. And the idea is that as you explain it out loud, and quite honestly, it does work. Is that 8 times out of 10, you'll go, I'm an idiot, and you'll realize what you've forgotten. I
Yeah.
but I use Scooby because I talk to him when I don't have a Scooby Doo, which is Cockney rhyming slang for clue. And I do have I
Um,
have a little stress ball muley here as well.
oh, that's cool. Yeah. I'm pretty light. I do have a plushie that's like an avocado, which is sort of a developer relations joke. Like the developer advocate, and then I think it came
Okay.
from like the word for like an advocate's a lawyer, or actually the translation for advocate is in French is avocat, which is also the word for avocado, I think. And
Okay.
anyway, so there's an avocado up there. Got a
I
few
just
things.
thought you liked expensive millennial toast.
I do love avocado.
I
I grew up with 4 avocado trees in our property in Southern California, and most of the year we had fresh avocado, like, from the tree. It was so good. Oh my god.
Yeah. I had avocado on toast this morning, and I own a house, so I am breaking all the millennial myths.
Quick, shout out to Prashanth, who said hi on the, chat. So it's good to say hello to, our folks out there. Anyone else out there, please, we'd love it if you'd give a shout. And one thing that I normally have been trying to do, like at the beginning of the show, so folks, heard recently I joined Salesforce Ben. Just to mention that, I just want to give a shout out that we're starting to actively look for new authors. If you are a developer, especially but an architect or an admin as well. And especially if you have sort of intermediate to advanced level topics to share, we want to broaden and kind of deepen the topics we're covering. So if you just go to salesforceben.com, scroll to the bottom, and click on Write for Us. We'd love to see you. Give us your ideas.
Yeah. Hi, Sakath as well, who's just said hello. And I know there's something that you and I are working on together separately in the background for a Salesforce Ben.
Yep.
Are we allowed to mention a little bit about what it is or not? I'm not sure of the rules. You're
It's
the
a good,
official rule book.
I mean, there's nothing like, there's I don't think there's anything secret about it. It's not like any like new feature that would be embargoed or
No.
anything like that. So yeah. um
Yeah. So we're working on a little 3 video series on integrations for
yeah.
people as well. So expect that to be coming out when Peter and I schedule ourselves properly together and go through things.
I
But
give it a couple months. Like, so
yeah,
for those of you who aren't in the sort of greater UK London area, you may not be aware that week after next, it's like this bonanza of events that's about to be going on. So, Architect Dreaming starts it all off. Then we have London's Calling. Then we have the Open Source Commons Sprint. Then we have a Heroku Partner Day. Then we have London World Tour. And then we have TDX London. Like, it is literally like
hmm
6 or 7 solid days of event after event after event. And once that's over, I'm expecting we'll sit down and actually do this video. I don't think it's
yes,
gonna. Although, wait, I take that back. I did maybe ping Sasha to see if she could get you if you were down for like world tour or something like that. Are you coming
yeah,
down for world tour?
I'm gonna be down for World Tour. Yeah, I'm presenting at World Tour
Ooh,
on 9 a.m. on the is it Wednesday Thursday this year they're doing it? Yeah, Wednesday
oh,
Thursday.
yeah. World tour is Wednesday.
And
TDX is
then TDX
Thursday.
is Thursday. So yeah, 9 a.m. on the Wednesday, I'm pretty sure it is. I am at the Community Cove,
Nice.
and I'm there on behalf of the Service Blazer team, talking about how things like Service Blazer and the Service Blazer community can help you if you're a Service Cloud, field service, customer service professional, and really just talking more broadly about how good those initiatives are at helping you. So if you're someone who works a lot with Service Blazer and with customer service, i.e., Service Cloud or field service, then yeah, have a look at the Service Blazer community. It's a good way of getting connected with other people in that industry, particularly if you're what I'm going to call like either an I'm going to say an admin at an org that's focused on that, or someone in kind of like the super user area. So you know what I mean, like those kind
Yeah,
of non-admins but are very very high level users. So yeah,
maybe some delegated
definitely,
administration functionality kind of
exactly,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So yeah,
And so
cool.
and
So
those like sub communities, those have been have you found those to be pretty good? I confess, like when they came out, I just like I wondered if they were too niche, but it sounds like you've been having some good experiences with it.
they are good. Yeah, I think the thing I struggled with at first was understanding where they fitted in,
Hmm.
um, and the reason they exist, as I've gone in there and learned more about it, is it's really to help you share that knowledge of best practice and how to do it, but specific to that business function rather than that product function. And so
Okay.
the way I would describe it is, we're used to developer groups and admin groups where you go along and you share, hey, this is how you use this new Lightning Web Component feature, and yada yada yada. How cool that is. That's very technology driven. These are far
Right.
more, from what I've seen, far more kind of business driven. So it's like, hey, we're
Okay.
thinking of setting up omni-channel, and we have these four routes. How might what have people found works best? Or we're looking at possibly implementing Agent Force, but we have these queries, these questions that are in it, and there are some technical questions that are in there for sure, but a
Right.
lot of it tends to be a bit more business level and business oriented, which I think is a good area to allow you to focus on.
Yeah, it makes sense. I can, when you put it that way, I can definitely see. So clearly, like I've told this story before. When I was working for this other CRM company that doesn't exist anymore in 2000, we caught wind of this, you know, this internet-based CRM company, and we were just like, ah, ha, ha, that'll never work. So it just goes to show like how much I've got my finger on the pulse sometimes. So
Yeah,
it's good to hear that like people are getting a lot of value from it. So yeah.
I think as well that the other thing that I'm going to be really honest about is, in fact, do you remember at the first Salesforce Ben influencer meetup
Yeah. Mhm.
when when there was kind of a discussion about all of this, and I had a chat with, there was a chat from Salesforce who was there, who I was asking like, what are the product teams doing around this, and he was just like, well, that's what Sales Blazer and Service Blazer are for. And I kind of just didn't get, seriously, just didn't get it at the time. It was only when I got involved a bit with trying Service Blazer out, and talking to the team who runs that. I've been talking to Kayla and Kyren, who run that and run Service Blazer and Data Blazer and all these others. And they've helped me understand the reasons behind it a lot. But part of it was honestly pulling my head out of my ass a little bit, because and the problem, and this is a small violin for Paul here. But one of the things that I struggle I struggle to remember, and I have to remember, is I know a lot of the platform. I've been using a lot of it. Like
Yeah.
I've been working with it long enough that to me, Sales Cloud and Service Cloud have all grown kind of organically. So
Right.
I've been able to
Right.
keep up with a lot. I'm not an expert in everything by any stretch of the imagination, but for something like Sales Cloud, it doesn't feel to me like I'm walking into a wall of information. I understand
Right.
Salesforce, and I've worked with Sales Cloud enough, and Service Cloud, and so on and so forth. Whereas if you're coming into a new Service Cloud implementation now, and you're just getting started, that's a huge product to get your head around.
Right.
Absolutely mad. And
Right.
there are £1 million businesses that run just using one cloud because that's all they need.
Right.
Um, and so you got to kind of remember, well, actually, pull, as I say, pull your head out of your ass a little bit, Paul. Like, not everyone's, you know, you've got to remember that there are people coming into these things who are only focused on Service Cloud, who are only focused on it from perhaps more of a business functionality as well, and who just haven't had a chance to, who might not be as technical, might not be as,
Right.
and there is an important space for these things.
It's like walking into the middle of a 20-year conversation, right? So, yeah.
Exactly, and you forget that you forget that you've been part of that conversation for 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really really kind of like funny about it. It's quite funny because I was looking the other day. one of the things I'm planning on doing with some of my products is considering taking them to other CRM platforms. So looking at the likes of HubSpot and ServiceNow and Pipedrive and Monday and whatnot. Just, this is, I want to be clear on this Salesforce related show that I am not saying that I think Salesforce is going the way they don't know, but from a business perspective, as someone building apps, I've got to have a look at, is there a way I can reuse certain things in the background?
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, there was definitely a thing when I was looking through one of them. I was like, oh man, this is like starting back again. Like I understand CRM a bit, so like if I pick up, opening up Pipedrive, which is a very simple CRM, was very easy to kind of get to grips on it. But there was still part of me like, oh, do I really want to have to go through relearning an entire ecosystem,
right,
how it connects,
right.
and what the data model is, and what the nuances are, and how to blow your leg off?
Yeah, I may be doing something like that really soon as well, with ServiceNow. So
yeah, well, that was another one that I was looking into. So if you want to compare notes, let me know.
Yeah, maybe.
Well,
if I, when and if I do, it's going to be to write something about it. And if you've looked at it yourself, then you might be my reviewer. I tap.
No, that sounds good. I mean, I'm going to just finish this part of the conversation by saying the reason I've even bothered looking at this, if anyone from Salesforce is listening, is because of Marketing Cloud. Because building Marketing Cloud apps, I've got so much stuff now built for my app that is it's just generic. It's like a Node.js app in the background. Did you know Marketing Cloud apps are built upon Postmonger that is a library that hasn't been updated for about 9 years? Like
They're on what?
Postmonger.
Postmonger?
Postmonger. Post Monger.
I've never heard of that.
So Postmonger is let me just bring it up here. This is a nice segue into actually doing some Salesforce work today, maybe. Screen number 1. So Postmonger, and I'll just go Postmonger events. So when you build a Marketing Cloud app, Marketing Cloud apps you build, and if you're building an activity event, so you have the option of building activities or events. They're the same thing, basically, but activities are like, in the journey builder, where you can drop something in and send an SMS like I'm trying to do. It uses this Postmonger events tool to send events from the Marketing Cloud app over to your app and back. Okay, so it uses this eventing system. This is the only way of doing it. This is absolutely bananas in my mind. It's even more bananas when you look at the last update for Postmonger 8 years ago.
Cross-domain messaging by some guy named Kevin Parkerson using Backbone. Wow.
Yeah, like it is so unlike. Joe, I get that there is a myriad, like that a lot of the stuff was built a while ago and something, but this genuinely frightened me a little bit because I'm like,
well, I mean, like JavaScript. What's the most recent commit? 8 years ago was a bit different.
Yeah, I mean that commit 8 years ago was just updating some npm config. It was hardly like add npm info for use with Webpack. I mean, when was the last time you heard of Webpack? So yeah, this
Yay!
version
Oh
0.
Iffy. How often do you see iffies anymore? It's like,
yeah. This is it's just so yeah,
that's funny. I was just trying to remember that acronym because I hadn't heard it in such a long time.
So what was the acronym? So Iffy.
So Iffy is instant, but it's something function expression instantly. That's IFFE is a IFFE.
Immediately
IIFE, there
invoked
we go.
function. Oh yeah, immediately invoked function
Immediately
expression,
invoked, that's it. Yeah, function expression.
which
So
is this here.
basically write your function definition and have it execute immediately. That was how JavaScript apps were like run back then.
Yeah.
Like that was how you made it happen. And in fact, like if you look at some how like transpilers actually take things like Lightning Web Components and you actually look at the stuff that executes in the browser, it's still an iffy. You just don't write them directly anymore. So
No, but yeah, this is. I mean, I'm not. Please tell me, please tell me if you disagree. But I find this a bit crazy that this is This is what the architecture for, especially now that there's platform events. I mean, let's just go with platform events. We don't need to do anything else. There's like pub sub, gRPC. There's all these other ways you could be doing it, and it's still
so it's
useless.
basically just like a really lightweight Node.js messaging app.
Yep.
And this is all Marketing Cloud?
This is for Marketing Cloud. What's called Marketing Cloud Engagement. What you and I would know as Marketing Cloud Exact Target.
And so and like if you're like sending messages that are going to do like a pop-up to a mobile device, like is that one of these?
Yes. Well, if you wanted to build, so if you had a custom messaging system you wanted to do, that would be it. So this is for app developers. So this is actually a really good example here of the way you build it is you have to have this config JSON file which tells you where things are and how things work, and the different steps you might have. You have to provide an index.html file at a specific root location, and that's your config index file. So when you drop your action on the builder, that's what pops up when you want to configure it. And then you have these methods that use this postmonger thing that you then have to handle the init, that if there's tokens requested, if next and back are clicked. And then you can have your own endpoint x/execute where you handle your requests.
I wonder if this was Reed Carlberg's product because when I first joined developer relations, he was one of the DevRel managers, and then
Reed's an all-round legend.
Yeah, but then he went off, and the next thing he did was this messaging feature that was part of Marketing Cloud. I wonder because 8 years ago, so that would be 2016. No, well, when was it originally? What was the first commit? Was it like 10, 11 years ago?
That's a lot. Well.
Oh, that was no, but that's
yeah, it's postmonger, not the thing.
No, yeah, like the timeline for that. Like if I think of when Reed would have been doing that, that would have been around 2015, 2014, 2015. That could very well been that could have been Reed who used that postmonger thing. I've got to ask him.
And it is mad that if that's the I'm looking at Reed 2015 to 2017. He was working on iOS and Android push notification systems, not that messaging.
Okay.
Looking at his LinkedIn here.
Yeah.
I've not seen. I mean, I don't think I'll see Reed again, sadly, unless I go to a Microsoft thing because he's now.
He's actually going to be in London. Next week. Yeah, I think he's being in London. No. Week after next. The first of the 2 Bonanza weeks. So he and I were just talking about maybe connecting and like grabbing a pint or a coffee or something.
Well, if you see him, please say hello from me.
I definitely will.
And then also ask him like, how was none of this fixed properly? But yeah. So so now that we've just been talking about code that should never see the light of day and obsolete things, let's get on to our actual thing. They go 34 minutes in, and we've managed to transition to what we were doing. So
there we go. And I actually I've been having keyboard problems, folks. I just realized this keyboard I have, the M key doesn't work, so I don't know why I still have it, but
we'll just avoid the letter M throughout this episode. This episode is brought to you by the letter M.
Well, I discovered it because I was trying to search for post-monger, and like it kept coming up as post-onger. So I go, all right, let me go find another keyboard to see if it works.
No worries. So while Peter's doing that, welcome to the stream, everyone else who is joining us as we go through. Hello, Saketh. Hello, Lal. If you are looking for us on LinkedIn, you can find Cloud Bytes TV. Where are we? Here. Let me just post this up. Sorry, just flicking around. So you can find Cloud Bytes TV on LinkedIn there, and in the latest post there are links to both mine and Peter's LinkedIn profiles as well. If you follow that on LinkedIn, you'll be sure to stay up to date. And if you have a look today on my profile, there is the weekly newsletter out as well for all things Salesforce. So let me zoom in a little bit and let's talk about where we were. So to recap a little bit for those that might not have seen every moment of every episode of this up to now, what we are doing, or at least attempting to do, I think is the correct phrase, is build out a new command line plugin for the SF CLI that allows us to recreate the functionality of the Create New App button. So the Create New App button is a button that used to exist in Salesforce Classic setup, where you click it and you basically say, I want to create an app called Recruitment, and I want to create an object in that app called Job, and the plural is jobs. It doesn't have a what's the word, a vowel sound at the start, and you press go, and Salesforce would go away, and it would create for you the app, the object, the tab, and it would just do a bunch of very basic setup stuff for you and deploy it. And it was really good for getting things going quickly and easily as a first pass. Now, what we wanted to do was go away and recreate that as an interesting kind of example, because along the way, we've added in a bunch of features that standard CLI doesn't have, such as creating an application. There's no way of doing that in the standard CLI, and creating a tab, as well as creating a permission set we've got in there as well, because one of the things we want to do is go forward and create permission sets with it and do all the assignment. So with all that, last episode, at the end of it, we'd got to the point where we had our new application generation command, and we were able to create an object, which was just out of the standard CLI. We were able to create a tab, we were able to create an app, and we are able to create a permission set. And so what we wanted to do was have this new generate application command that kind of wrapped all of them in one to do so. And at the end of the last episode, we got stumped. As is the way, and as we will probably be in about an hour and 5 minutes, we just hit, or maybe an hour and 10 minutes, we just hit a roadblock and we weren't sure what was going on. Now, first of all, I was wrong. It was not a TypeScript error that was being thrown. Well, it kind of was because it didn't exist, and so there was a type of unknown. But we found an issue in the Salesforce documentation, which makes us feel good. So in the Salesforce documentation here, there is a piece where we talk about where there's a discussion on prompts, which is in, where is it? Let me just find it. Oh, where is it? Prompts SF command. There's a place in the documentation where it references that SF
prompt singular. Is there?
That
looks pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's just because. There you go. That's exactly the thing I'm looking for. It says here, prompt the user. SF command contains. Sorry, let me do this in my best voice. SF command contains a prompt method that encapsulates the inquirer library. And so we took this very code here. Did you like that? I thought that was quite.
That was good, actually. Like, sign you up for the BBC, man. BBC Radio 4.
I when when our mutual friend Carolina first moved to the UK and was working in the Financial Force office in Harrogate, there was myself and many people who were all from Yorkshire. And she said that she enjoyed speaking to me because I sounded like the man from the BBC. And I don't, but I think it was just in comparison to a lot of people with very strong Yorkshire accents.
I'm from the north.
Yes, and I am very much not. So anyway, so we tried using this, and we tried this.prompt, and it was just whinging and failing and was not working. And it turns out it's because this statement is a lie. And we'll probably say it's maybe not a lie. Maybe we'll be a bit politer than that. But if we have a look at the documentation for the SF command part of the repo, so if we go into the SF CLI here and we find SF command, that's the help file, but that's not what we want. It is going to be in. I found it earlier. Where was it? Hooks util. Is it hooks? No. Source help scripts, maybe. Where is SF command?
See, you can use the little search up above there. Will that help you?
I can find you. SF command help from SF command help. 1 minute. It's because I'm looking at the CLI, and what I want to look at is
something else.
Yeah, it's the core, I think.
Yeah, the
plugin. It's meant to be.
The core plugins.
SF plugins core. Yeah, SF plugins core. Plugins, info, object, template. So many things. Plugin source, plugins Apex. Here we go. sfcommand.ts. Anyway, as we will see here, there is no prompts. So we import prompt inputs, and we have confirm and secret prompt that are both possible prompt types. So confirm, literally, I was just say yes or no, and secret prompts, I don't really fully understand, but it does something. So if we go down to prompt, so prompt is just yes, no, and secret prompt is avoid calling adjacent scenarios. I don't know what the difference is between that and that, though. Return secret prompt. I just don't get this, but hey, that's maybe me. Anyway, it returns a small prompt. As you can see, though, however, there is no prompts option for us. The only reference to prompts is there, and it is in the thing. So I have fed back, just as a note, if you ever have something you find on part of the documentation where you think there is an issue or error, you can share your feedback. And there's a little kind of survey that you go through. And that is
what I like about it is that you can still say like, yes, this was helpful, but then you can also like provide text feedback, because like sometimes I'll find like an answer, but I also find a problem. So it's like, yeah, it's a good, pretty good feedback mechanism.
Yeah, completely. And it's one that I wasn't aware of until our friend Christy pointed it out to me when I said to her, who do I tell that the documentation is wrong? And she said, fill out the feedback form. Because it wasn't there before. There used to be, the way I had to do it, like historically, was like tweet at Salesforce docs. I found an error.
Yeah, that used to work.
Yeah, that was a scalable way of managing that. So this is just wrong and incorrect. So it's not going to work for us. So what we have done instead is it mentions here the Inquirer library. Inquirer is a library that is good for doing these questions and answers. So we've got input, we've got select, there's a checkbox, there's confirm, there's a search, password, expand, and so on and so forth. Editor as well. And you can create your own if you really want to be absolute mad and do that. We're not mad.
Another just about this specific implementation, something that was occurring to me when you walked through it is, so in English, there's the has a vowel thing, right? That exists in other
Mhm.
languages. Other languages also have, what's the gender? So, like, if you create a French object or an object in a French org, you actually have the option of like specifying the gender because then that changes the article. So
I did not know that. Because unsurprisingly, I've never used a French Salesforce org.
I honestly don't know how often it's really used. I would guess like the vast majority of orgs actually still like primarily use English, but I'm sure there's some.
Yeah.
Nothing to put in our MVP, I would say, but just something to shout out that if somebody was doing this and was really going for prime time, production ready, and really hitting all the use cases, there's more than we're doing.
This is internationalization of things is when you know you're building a product versus a program
Yeah, it's true.
or a script or whatever. I one of the very interesting things I saw when someone was discussing vibe coding the other week is about internationalization, just like trying to get an AI to understand that we need to internationalize this, and the AI is like, nope. Like, do you want to add a flag? Like, there's a joke I saw the other day where someone said, "Are you sure?" It was like this sort of made up kind of comic video, and the person had been like, "So, have you written this code yourself?" And the developer goes, "Oh yeah, I did this all myself." She's like, I asked you to refactor our state management system, and you've added an image and 7,000 lines of code. Are you sure you didn't use an AI for this? Like, no, all me. Like, okay, so why is our homepage now just a picture of Florida? Like, oh, maybe I should have checked. It's like, we asked you to refactor state management and add more states into the system, and it's just added a picture of Florida. And you can just imagine the literal interpretation from the LLM being like, great, more states.
More states. Oh my god.
So we're going to use Inquirer to do that, and I have gone ahead already in the background, and I've imported Inquirer.
Oh, nice.
And the input from Inquirer prompts, I have gone down here and I have added our answer. I've removed flags from up here as well because it was moaning that it was added and never used, and I've commented this out because we haven't got any flags on this command at the moment.
Right. Yeah.
We wanted to make this an interactive one rather than a flaggy one.
I think some of the interactive ones still have some like
flags
but
on them.
yeah, well, but I like just starting with it as is, and then we can always add to it. So
yeah. So if we now go here and run generate application, and it's going to say, what do you want the app to be called?
Ooh.
And I'm going to say Peter. It says, hello, Peter. Ta-da!
Nice.
Coding guru.
Amazeballs.
I know. It's honestly, it's surprising really that I don't work for one of the FANG companies with this sort of
Never
level.
know. They may come calling,
Yeah. Did you watch any of the Google I/O event?
No, I was starting to catch up on it, but I haven't yet. Yeah.
I watched a in 30 minutes kind of debrief of it, and
Okay.
yeah, like
Any standouts? What was the thing I heard? I mean, obviously, lots of stuff around Gemini and AI, but
yeah,
there were a couple of things
Gemini.
that were. Yeah.
The
Anyway,
Android XR looked pretty good. The glasses with the like overlay, a bit like Google Glass, basically.
yeah.
But if you can, but having them on prescription lenses, as someone who wears prescription lenses, that's where I'm like, yeah, I can definitely see this. I just need Apple to be able to do it as well, rather than an Android one, so I can connect it to everything else I've got. So we have this working now. We are good. So I think the next thing we then want to do. So what I was going to suggest we do, Pete, is why don't we get it so that we can ask all of our questions and get all of our answers.
Yeah.
And then from there, go away and look at doing the next step, which is then filling in
How do
the
you
actual
actually
work.
like call another command, basically?
Yes, which I think from my reading is basically just the internal ones. They are just JavaScript files we call for our other commands.
Okay.
But we can have a look as we go. So what I'm going to change this to is I'm going to change this to app name answer, because we're going to have many different answers. Cool. And I'm just going to remove this log from down here, or I'm going to remove this part for now because we don't need that. Actually, let's do this, because we can then output all of our things one by one. So first thing we're going to do then is ask for our app name. The next thing we want to do is ask for what is the name of the object you wish to create. I think sounds good.
Yep, sounds good.
So what is the name of the object? Great. And then I'm just going to log out that as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to update this touch that just says something like just so it's a bit more useful, meaningful.
Yeah, makes sense.
The next one we then have is constant starts with val. So does the that thing you mentioned about the gendering, does the CLI support that now? I don't think it
That's
does.
a good question. I mean, I don't know. Because there is a create object, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to end up using.
That's a good question.
So we're going to also import confirm, because this is going to be a confirmation type. It's a yay or a nay. Okay. So we're going to do await confirm, and a confirmation one. Let's go have a look here. Is simply message continue. Okay. So confirm, and the message is going to be: does it require it as an object? Yes, it does. Ooh. Escape single characters. There you go.
And I think I like the standard for the Salesforce CLI for like yes no answers is like lowercase y uppercase n or something like that.
Yes, I think that's the standard from here as well. So we'll see what we get back. Now, because I assume it's so it will return a yes or a no, a Boolean value, as we can see here, which I think is what which is what it's transforming it to. But we then can transform it back if we want to. Ooh,
Right.
Theming as well. That's all the theming we can do. Oh, yeah, we could definitely make things look pretty if you want. Is that a circular reference? Yeah, the theme object contains the theme object. Cool. So app name, object name. Does it start with a vowel? Anything else we need?
I don't think so. I wonder if the SF generate metadata S object, if that itself is its own wizard or like its own set of steps and how that's going to work. Because it only has a flag for use default features and label. Like that's it, which tells me there's a lot more information that it needs before it can actually create an object. So that's an interesting.
Interesting. Have you noticed that this time it's come up with it being a question mark rather than a check mark?
Oh wow.
Oh, it changes. So it's a question mark whilst it's a question, and then it's a check mark when it's completed.
Wow. Clever design there.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's call this job, I don't know, and then does it name? Nope. There you go, and returns a false. Beautiful. We now have a little wizard. So,
how did you get that to come out as false instead of the?
It just does it automatically by using confirm.
Really?
Yeah. So if you have a look at it when we're on the docs a second, confirm.
I missed that. I was looking at the generate SObject command.
Yeah, confirm. So we have different options, but confirm returns. I'm guessing it returns a string as the default is a string. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, like that.
Sweet. So let's take this then, and what we're going to be doing is effectively going to our app method, our app command here, and running that, aren't we? And I'm wondering if there's a way in which we can run stop parse mdx create app. So I think what we want to do is something like flags equals mdx create app. I am wondering, Peter, whether, because I don't think we can, looking at this, we can't just automatically, well, we could try and see if we could find a way of doing this, populating this mdx create app class. So it's going to parse.
We're going to need a plural label. Oh, no, that comes through in the actual SObject. Yeah, we don't want to pass that through. Never mind.
Okay. So yeah, looking at this then, the run command is what does everything, and it kind of awaits those flags. Awaits those flags that are there. So I'm wondering, we have two options. Do we build a constructor for this, where we could pass in the values that go into our flags, or do we see if should we try first of all and see if there's a way we can inject this stuff in?
Yeah, I guess what are you thinking as far as that? It seems like a lot of parameters to pass into like a set of parameters. Like it's almost like one option would be to have like an actual like object literal that gets used that like just has all that stuff. But yeah, that's definitely yeah, in other words, just like instead of passing them in as individual parameters, have an object that basically has all the configurations, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Because what I'm thinking, I'm just looking here on someone's, someone has gone, do you remember Stack Overflow?
Do I remember?
Yeah. I mean, I know everyone uses ChatGPT now, but Stack Overflow, someone's done this or given some ideas around it where what they've said is that you import your command from elsewhere and just try and do it. So I'm wondering, let's try doing what this person has suggested, see if that works.
Is it actually on Stack Overflow, not Stack Exchange?
It is Stack Exchange, sorry, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which, I'll be honest, like, I know that there is a difference between the two, but same thing.
Yeah.
So what we're going to try doing then is let's import. So we're application, which is what we're doing here. So import, and then we're going to get is going to be application.
Now, I don't know if there's anything in the command line that detects the locale of your laptop, but it didn't ask me anything about which language this object was going to be in. So the gender thing became irrelevant. Just testing it out.
That is useful to know for the future. And then where the hell is this located? Commands, and we're in commands, and we're in generate, so be from it whinged about this before, didn't it? But create slash app.js. Is that going to work? Oh, that's fine. MBX create app is defined but never used. Just declare that it's valid. That's fine. So if we do argv string config, yeah, this should work. So if we do something like, so in our app here, what we asked for is the name, the output directory is defaulted, and the summary, yeah, none of those are required. So I'm just going to pass in n for a second. And then, oops, app. Strings must use single quotes. Okay, I'll play ball with that. Argument of type. Okay, we want something like.
I wonder if that's a TypeScript thing, like single quotes only.
This one is a yeah. It's the ESLint config we've got. So if we do, there we go. Cool. What are you whinging about now? Object. Config optional. I'm going to go back to doing that because whilst that might whinge about it, argument type is not assignable. Config options aren't being cached in 65 more. Let me just try though. I mean, I don't think this is going to run, but let's see what errors we get. MDX generate application not found. Yeah, it's not liking that config thing. Damn it. Okay. Is there somewhere that we can see it passing in?
Hmm.
Hello. There you go. There's our config. I think. Come on. Rest of this types, commands, MDX, create, app, flags, on. That's in SF command. Just go to. I've still got SF command open, I think. Where's config in here? Okay, that's using command. That's in Oak Cliff. Sorry, I'm aware that we've gone very quiet as we're talking away.
I was
So,
just thinking, like, what do I add?
Well, let me explain what I'm trying to do, because that's probably a good thing, and we can do some rubbery ducking here. So, the problem we've got, it seems, is when we're running this. So, the app command is here, and as you can see, it's a class that's called MDX create app. And what I'm trying to do is say, let's just create an instance of that in memory, and then we can use that as if we're running it. Yeah, seems pretty sensible.
Yeah.
Now, the conundrum we have is twofold. Number one, it seems to be okay with that up till this point. The problem is it has this type of config, this argument config that comes in. Now, the problem we have is no. Right.
And then just something to, so
Sorry.
in your app command, right, there was a run function. And like, why is that invoked here with the underscore run? Do you know?
What I was saying here is it's in so this is from reading that Stack Exchange post. It says that the CLI, so this is SFDX, not SF, but presumably the same theory applies. The CLI does not directly call the run method after construction. Firstly, it parses the arguments and does some initialization, and then runs, which it's all encapsulated in the underscore run method.
So underscore run is not directly invoking run. It's a way that packages the invocation of run, but it also does some legwork ahead of time to ensure everything else is in place.
Exactly. And
Because
this
it's
is
not
where
just
we're
a synchronous call. It needs some bootstrapping of whatever's going on with the command line.
Yeah, and so there's 65 odd things in options, arc, bin, cache, and a bunch of other things we need in here.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to figure out is where they come from, because I think they're coming from the Oakcliff command. What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of base class. So let me go through my reasoning here. Sorry, I'm aware that I've just kind of jumped a little bit and not been very helpful. So you can see here that we need this command object, this config object.
Yep.
There isn't anywhere I can see in our stuff here that we have this config object. We have some config JavaScript here, but that doesn't have 65 attributes to me anyway. And so it's like, well, is this something that's coming, and it is likely coming from SF command because we're extending SF command here, right? So I've gone and looked at SF command and seen what configs is there, and config is imported from Oakcliff core.
Right.
And so I'm just having a look at Oakcliff core and trying to find where that is in there. And I've lost Oakcliff core, wherever that is, commands, tables, core. So we're just trying to find core. README. Oh, 1 minute. Oakcliff/core. So it's a completely different repo to the one I'm looking at, probably, which is always helpful. So source. It'd probably be here in main where it's exported, I would imagine.
Well, wasn't you weren't using the command one that was previous on that previous
the command one imports this from core.
Okay.
This is one of the just for people like following on alone and trying to figure out what we're doing and why we're doing it. One of the difficulties I personally find sometimes with working with open source libraries, especially ones like the CLI command plugin here, where there's not really a documented example of doing this, is you end up kind of having to work and backtrack through everyone else's work. And when they've got like this, layers upon layers of things in there, I mean, we could what we'll end up finding is somewhere back along the line that it's just a Lodash configuration file or something that we need to add in, and we'll just be really upset. But so this is using ./config, and presumably that is then going to be that, which is then a bunch of config stuff. Was that correct? Sorry, main here, config from ./config. So let me just collapse. Yeah, there's no config file there, is there? So it'd be config in the. So it'd be loading the config folder. Config is await config.load options require main file name name. But yeah, so this is where I'm kind of a bit confused as to where it's even loading this config thing in anywhere. And if I search for config here, so look how it's doing it. See, the command is saying that it's got a config passed in called config. So I wonder if we just call.
So is it just an import that needs to happen?
Well, I'm wondering if it's just.
Oh, like if there's just something called config.
Yeah.
That's like automatically added.
If we're just needing to
nice.
parent. Oh, no. Have we got a different error though, at least? Let me just clear the screen and run that again. Oops. Clear the screen again. Just so we can see the error there. So argument of type unknown is not assignable to parameter of type string undefined. Okay, that's cool. We can figure that out. Whereabouts is that? Oak Cliff Core 3. Application TS 2714. 9627. Ah, cool. That's all right. So that's just that log run there. If I do I don't think it's going to do anything different. Whoop. There you go. Look, it's running now.
Wow.
So let me do that and let me explain what's. Well, let's just run it, see what we get out.
We can walk through that one more time. I didn't quite follow all of that myself.
Right. If it makes you feel better, neither did I. So let me just check and see where it fails and what it's doing. We recall recruiting. Ah, awesome, awesome. Cool. Job. And no. And cool. Right. I know what's going on. So, first thing we have to do is ignore this squiggly red line because that's just it saying it doesn't like the fact that there's an underscore there.
Right.
And there's nothing I can do about that other than go in and... Yeah. And this console.dir it doesn't like because it's a console statement and I should be using something else apparently because life's like that. So this MDX create app, if I just comment this out a second and go through this. So if I do new MDX create app, you can see here it's expecting argv, which is an array of strings. So those are all of the arguments that come in. So argv is an array, and this is one of the nuances of working with command lines, actually, is because command lines work with strings and kind of just split on spaces as arrays to create the array, you're creating a flat set of strings here. So if you imagine we've got the flag N for name and I don't know, S for summary, I think it was.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, let's just say it's S for summary. You'll have the array would be dash N and then whatever the name is as the next string in the array, then dash S as the third element, or the third element in the array, and then the actual summary is the fourth one. Okay.
Right.
So we need to pass in that. The second thing we need to pass in is this config object. And this config object is one of these things that is 9 layers deep. So the config object comes from Oak Cliff and from Oak Cliff core, and it's passed into Oak Cliff, and then Oak Cliff passes it into the Salesforce CLI, which then passes it to the SF command, which then passes it down to us. I just guessed, if I'm very, very honest, that we would have a this.config because it's been passed down and we're extending. Well, we're extending SF command here, right?
Yeah.
So we're extending
somewhere
SF
floating
command.
around in context. Config would be available.
Yeah, exactly. And so I've just assumed that that's going to work for us, and it has done. Now, the other thing to note here is that this is giving us an object return, which is the path to our item. That's what's returned from here, which is what we expect is returning an object with our path. So, well, it's actually returning an object not with our path. It's returning an object with the path to the file that it's running, which I think is probably what it's expected to do. Now, this is interesting from our perspective because we actually don't need the output then at all, because we don't care what the file is, we just care that it's run. And we can in fact see up here.
That makes sense.
So all of it, so the summary of what we've done here is figured out that we can run this command quite happily, but we've just got to jump through a few hoops to get there. So what I think we can do here is do that, and that's good. Does that make sense? Or would you like me to go through
Yeah. So actually, like I can look. So Right. So just to kind of review everything,
Mhm.
like we set this up by skipping the, supposed hoped for prompts import and just using the, what it was supposed to be referencing, which is
Mhm.
inquirer. And then in order to invoke our secondary, because it's basically, this generate application command is going to be a command that it just invokes a bunch of other ones. So
Yeah.
each command that we're going to import that, and you have that on line 5 on application. If you scroll up a
Sorry.
bit, that's right.
Yeah.
Line 5 of application.ts.
There you go. So that's all fitting in one.
Right. And then there's some boilerplate stuff. Right. Okay. And then we get to the actual class declaration. So we have summary description examples as get messages in case we need those. We're gonna get rid of those eventually. No. Yeah, because that's just the help text stuff, right?
Yeah. This is so. What these are doing is messages here
Yeah.
is hey, that was not very good. Gets the messages from here.
Right.
We probably need
Okay.
to remove the hello world command at some point, but that's a
Right.
separate thing.
So then, this isn't exactly chronological order, but we've got all of the await inputs for each
Mhm.
of the inputs that we're going to take, but we've started with the app name one,
Yeah.
and they're on line 24 and 25.
Mhm.
We've taken that imported MDX create app that we did up on line
Yep.
4, and then because command lines are space delimited, the way
Yes.
that we package that, or sorry, command line parameters are space delimited. The way we package that is an array where we basically have every other thing. Like one thing, the 0th element would be a parameter, and then the first element would be the parameter value, and we sort of go through that way. I wonder how it works when you have a non. Oh, I guess it doesn't really matter. Like if your parameter was like the JSON parameter, for example, you just pass that
Mhm.
in as a single element, and then it just constructs that as a command line call, I would guess, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
presumably.
so yeah, just on line 24 there, I've just written out an example. So
Right.
what this part here up to there is the equivalent of that there.
Yeah.
But if we had the summary in as well, it would be S and then
Except single quotes.
this is yeah, blah, blah. Yeah, obviously we would have single quotes. Yeah, so it comes
Um,
in as an array like that.
and then we pass in the magical config object that just happens to be there because of Oak Cliff.
It does, and we will be happy that it is there. Just let
And
it
then
be the
finally
way it
we
is.
we actually execute the run, or rather the wrapper for the run
Mhm.
uh, command that basically invokes that as a subcommand. Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, essentially you're spawning another
Mm.
call, to the
Yeah.
terminal.
So okay, so I think that's a good thing we've learnt there. What I was going to say is, shall I hand over to you, Pete? Because I'm aware that I've been driving for a while.
Yeah, I can give it a go. See how I do with this. So,
Yeah. Let me stop sharing and let you share, as you
all
have
right.
access to all the things.
um,
Um,
provided all
because I
my,
think,
my keys work on my
well, I mean, yeah.
odd
Thankfully, we're
keyboard.
using the app create one rather than the map make object one. So the M not working shouldn't cause us too many problems.
Right.
Thankfully, it's the
So,
word new and not mu.
okay. So let's share screen. Oh, which one is it? It's this one. Should be anyway.
Boom. Look at that.
Good.
Magic.
Cool. So the next thing we're going to do, I almost want to come back to the object one because that's not our command. And we know when we call that, it's going to do another set of questions. And
Okay.
so I'm just not sure how that's going to work.
Well, I was going to. The only thing I was going to say is, do we want the object? We can't do the tab one until we have the object one.
Yeah, that's true. No. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Because what we can do, what is probably going to help though, is if I find out what the correct formatting for the SFCLI.
Now, when it did it, when I actually ran the object command, so what did it ask? It asked which directory, plural label, API name, description, name field, type of the name field, and all the different features and sharing model.
What is the, sorry, for people who aren't aware, is it, what is the command? It is force, it's SF.
Oh, it's SF generate metadata object. So it's got a topic and then sort of subtopic, I guess, and then the actual action.
Where is, I can't see the generator namespace.
Generate, not generator, but
I can't see the generate namespace either.
yeah. Well, so if I come over here.
Lightning. No, that's not. There's lightning generate.
Are you looking on the GitHub SFCLI one?
I was looking at the SFCLI documentation.
Oh, okay.
Schema generate S object. That's what it is.
Okay.
Because I think that might be where we have to kind of pull things from. Because there is. So yeah, on the schema. This is good. This is good. So, interestingly, it doesn't actually. Okay.
There's actually a generate field one too.
Yeah. So, but just as an interesting thing here.
That's
On the, let me share this link with you.
Is that plugin schema? So Salesforce CLI plugin schema, is that the?
No, the Salesforce. What are you looking for? Sorry, before I answer.
So I'm looking at the GitHub repo for Salesforce CLI plugin schema.
Yes. So schema, and then it would be in SRC, I think. And you're probably looking for S object. There we go. Oh no.
Oh no, because this is schema. We need generate, of course.
Well, weirdly, this is schema generate S object.
That doesn't. So that's not. It's just SF generate. Is what I'm seeing.
What am I looking at? Because I'm on the summer 25 Salesforce CLI command reference documentation.
I think this is the one. Plugin generate.
Yeah.
SRC. Commands generate. No, that's project. Weird. Oh, yeah. So here, I'll grab where I did this before. So this was, while you were working, I was playing around with this a little bit. And so the actual command was SF generate metadata S object.
Okay. Could you
Right.
try, out of interest, sorry, Pete,
Yeah.
just in that same, if you go back into that window, could you try,
Yeah.
could you type in SF schema generate S object. Yeah, there you go.
Oh. Oh, that's weird. Force that. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep. Whatever. Yep. Yep. Oh. Yeah, whatever. I should just have like, and then read write. That's the same. So was I using an alias? I must have been using an alias. Actually, that'll tell me that if I run help. Aliases. SF generate metadata object. Oh, so I was using the alias, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting though, it still doesn't show up in our in that
Yeah, that doesn't solve that problem.
generate project.
But
No.
like it explains why it's not here, I guess. I wonder if it's in a different. So if I search, no, what I want to do, no, because those are projects. Yeah, I guess I will. S object, plug in S object.
Maybe my one is the one that is the yeah, 1 minute. Generate is an archived one.
There we go. That's it.
Okay, so commands schema. Yeah, so mine is the archived one. But interestingly, though, if you click in on S object there, though, Peter,
Yeah.
I think we can find the list of flags, and I wonder if we need to. I wonder if there's a list of flags in there that we don't need to.
Well, it's just these. There's a use
Yeah,
default features. So we can skip we can just say use default features or not and like
yeah,
skip all that. Although I always just would say yes, I think.
yeah. Well, I mean, for this for the quick create, I think it's fine for us to assume that we'd say yes to the default features, and it just
Yeah,
makes it easy passing in those args because it's just L and F.
right. But the rest
Um,
of it, like, so going back to what was here, so what do we have to do? Like, there's no option but to specify the plural label. Like, there's no flag for plural label. There's no flag for
but
API name.
what happens if you do that same command as you get label thing, but then put -f true?
-F.
Is not that is -f not the flag for use default features? You see what I'm getting at?
Oh, like you think it would just take,
Yeah.
but it needs input for plural labels. Like, I don't know how it would, like,
Oh.
that's not something it can.
Await prompt for default feature show model label. I'm just gonna look here, seeing if it's got. I mean, I'd say let's just
I mean, I'll give it a try,
yeah.
so dash label equals I already did thing, I did thingy, and this is actually going into
A thing.
so yeah, whatever. Uh oh. Have you ever used flags dir? Well, no, because that only works with flags themselves.
Yeah. What does use? Just put use default features.
See what happens? So it's going to ask me what directory, plural label, API name, description. Yeah. Name field. So all it does is it skips all of the things like, do you want notes and activities and chatter
Yeah.
and like those kinds of things.
Let's
Like all these
just
enable features here. You can't even like
well,
set the sharing model. So, but I don't think that's a big deal. I mean, like
yeah,
it is what it is, right? Like we unless we want to rewrite this command, or unless there's a way to intercept the input prompts, which sounds painful, frankly, and
yeah.
not fun.
Well, I suppose the question is if we do the same thing as we did for the other command and
Uh-huh.
just try it, is it going to pop up with the questions or is it going to error? And I think that's what we have
That's
to.
yeah, we have to see like how it's
Yeah,
gonna behave with that.
let's
So
let's
I
see if
think
we
it'll be
can. Yeah, I mean we're at 25-2, so let's see in the next 15 if we can get it to do that and throw
to
us.
either fail or not.
I
So
mean,
I'm gonna
it's perfect into another episode if we fail.
yeah, it's called a cliffhanger. Like this, this makes for good TV. So
An O cliffhanger.
I know. Oh, oh, well played, sir. Well played. Okay. So now in this instance, like how do I do the import from
I
the
think
standard
it's
package?
so I think it's import, and you want to call it import object generate from
Uh-huh.
at Salesforce at plugin at Salesforce slash plugin dash s
Oh, right.
object
S object. Okay. Right.
slash src or it should be src unless the compile one is in lib maybe, but yeah, src commands schema generate s object.
Oh, okay. So the actual like
Yeah,
directory.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. SRC.
Sorry, do you want me to read it out? Schema generate s
Gotcha.
object.
Okay. 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 And then down here, I'm just gonna see. Will this work? Oh yeah, I love that. So const object equals new object generate. Does label have a shorten?
L.
Does L work?
Yeah.
Okay. Minus L, and then I'm gonna take. Oh yeah. So object name answer. And I pass in the config, and then it doesn't like that, or is it? Unsafe construction of any type. Yes.
So there's a dangling thing there. This .config. Let's just check the 1 minute. Should occur before. Yeah. Oh, 1 minute.
What'd you find?
It was just whinging about the order of something being done. Cannot find modules.
Does it have to
Salesforce.
do with this?
I think it's the import.
Yeah.
Cannot find modules. Salesforce plugin S object. Right. Let's just check in our. Just going to try seeing if I can get it to IntelliSense it for me. SF plugins core. No.
What if it's just, is it just
Core. No.
is it just plugins S object?
You mean it being? I'm just looking here at what. Oh, you mean it should be?
Yeah, like is it just plugin S object? Is it just this? Is that
Like that?
Is it singular or plural? Singular plugin.
Nope.
No.
Although I'm wondering if that's because isn't plugin? Oh, it's plugin S object should be part of.
Yeah. So what's an example? Like, where's there another core package or core command calling? Where's there one core command calling another core command? Is kind of what I'm wondering.
Could you? Well, is there not the aliases?
What's that?
Would the alias not show that?
I don't know. Like, I don't know how aliases are surfaced, to be honest.
That makes two of us. Swing and a miss there.
Okay, I'm going to try Perplexity and see what it comes up. If I'm writing a custom Salesforce plugin and want to call a standard Salesforce CLI, I should probably do this on screen. That'll be, because that makes for really good TV to watch somebody typing something you can't see. Standard Salesforce. So if I'm writing a custom Salesforce CLI plugin and want to call a standard Salesforce CLI command in the code of my plugin, how do I do that? Cite references of any answers you find. It's thinking. I love how it like tries to like they've like really like fine tuned the. Here, this will probably be if I make this bigger.
Did you copy your prompt? I'm just going to do the same in Claude as I've got.
Oh yeah, okay.
Floor, just to see if
like
we get anything. Your answers upgraded to Pro Search.
Yeah, I'll paste that over to you. Okay. Oh. It'll consider 3 times more sources. Well, let's see what happens with my. I thought I had Pro on Perplexity. No, I don't. I'm just a member.
The code it's posted up there is literally the code that.
But we didn't import the run. We didn't import run, did we?
That's.
Oh, but this is for test run. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Test run.
Salesforce. Huh? No.
Plugin Apex lib command force Apex test run. So let's see. Okay. I don't know if we're going to make it, man. Okay. Repositories. I mean, it could just be that the thing is wrong, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So one more time. At Salesforce, plugin Apex lib. We were doing SRC. We weren't doing lib.
So you reckon it's plugin?
Yeah, plugin dash
S object.
was somebody comment? Nobody found that in the comments.
Lib.
Yeah, try lib. I'll read it out.
Commands, was it commands generate S object?
Plugin S object. So lib commands schema generate S object.
Okay. Still saying it can't find it.
Still saying it can't find it.
Because what I was trying to do is see if I could. I was trying to see if I could spot it myself in the.
Oh, you have two schemas.
Okay, well,
I mean,
that
I
won't
don't
help.
know. Let's see.
Yeah, still can't find it.
Okay. Let me go see
just...
what Perplexity's sources say. Although I realize we're going to have to. Oh, there's also a direct command construction. It's still the import is the same though.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's inheritance. That's the one that we're doing. Oh, except it has it in brackets.
Try it. I think it just can't resolve the path.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I'm just trying to go back to what it's suggesting.
I have one random little idea.
Okay.
Let me just. No,
I don't want that. Okay. Is it possible to call? So there's a stack exchange answer that it looks like it might be referencing. What's this? Call SFDX plugin or command from an SFDX plugin or command.
I'm wondering if SF plugin. Yeah, I wonder.
Joys of Apex. Oh, does James Simone have something? Authoring. I don't think he has anything specific again.
Let me try this idea. One sec. So,
want me to put the thing up on the screen?
give me 1 second, and it is. Yeah. Okay. Because what I've just done is gone in and added it in as a fixed dependency in our so
you just did an npm install, you mean?
Yeah. So yes, it is in there now. So it is command schema generate s object dot js. I think. There you go, and that should work. It'll whinge and moan about it a second on there until we.
Oh, so what did you do?
So in the command line, what I realized is I was doing a little bit of just being nosy.
Here we go, going down.
Yeah, and if I went into the modules in npm on node modules, the plugin s object wasn't actually in there. So it's not because it's not a dependency of this CLI project. when you
There we
install the
go. So
full Salesforce
npm
CLI,
I at
Salesforce,
Salesforce plugin S object. So for everyone who's looking for it, there
yeah,
it is right there.
yeah. Because what I realized was the core does not depend on that. When you install the Salesforce CLI, it then installs a bunch of other ones for you,
Right.
but it won't. We're not using the CLI, are we? Really, we're using the core package. Do you see what? Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. Right. Like, on well, in this case, your machine, because I'm
Yeah.
remote into your machine, you have the generate S object command installed as part of the CLI
Yes.
functionality. But as far as like generating a project to create a new a new CLI command, there shouldn't be a dependency in that project on other CLI commands necessarily. So they don't go and import all of the node modules for every single command in the command line,
No.
core commands. In order for us to actually reference it in code, we need to have it somewhere in the project so that it can resolve it.
Yeah. So what I'm wondering then is, no, it errors. It's like, can we run this code?
Well, and
Um,
it did start complaining again. Now it
yeah, it kind
says
of,
should be listed in the project's dependencies, cannot find module, blah, blah, blah. It's corresponding type declarations. So
yeah.
once
So
again, I think we're left with
a cliffhanger for us to go figure out,
yeah.
which is fine.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So just to kind of summarize what we've done so far, though, lib commands schema generate s object.js. Yeah, it should work. Why are you not working?
Why?
So annoying. So annoying. So you're just going to resolve it for me? I'll go and have a look. Anyway, it's for us to look at later. So to summarize what we've done today, then, we have managed to get the commands working. Well, what we've managed to do is get our inputs captured of what we want for the names, and we've started to look at actually getting a command to run in sequence, and we've called out to an existing command. So we've got a few bits done. We haven't managed to get our subject command to run because for some reason it's not loading it in properly, but that should be, in theory, a fairly simple fix for us to figure out why it's not able to find it.
Yeah, there must be an obvious reason,
Yeah, it's probably likely to be I've mistyped it, which is, let's be clear, the most likely reason is my fat fingers somewhere along the line. Interesting. So I'm just IntelliSensing it here in the background now, and what's funny is that it doesn't seem to want to navigate past plugin /s object. Interesting. All right, I might. I'll play around with this later. So yeah. So I think. So when I say next time though, because next time is not in 2 weeks, is it? Because of the myriad of busy world events going on. So.
Yep. Indeed.
So next week. So in 2 weeks' time, there is.
London's calling.
London's calling, which sadly I will not be at this year.
I'll be speaking at it.
Well, you'll be speaking. So if you are going, do make sure to go over and say hello to Peter.
Yeah.
I will miss your talk, but I'm sure I'll be able to catch up on it as they're
Yeah,
pretty
it should be
posted
good. So it's a talk on kind of a part of the tech world that is only just getting started in Salesforce, which is business process mining. So
Ooh,
yeah.
perfect. Well, yeah, I look forward to watching that when it comes out. And yeah, and then I think possibly the 20th is when we might be having our guest join us, but I need to check on that because I feel like we said that was a possibility, and then we were like, oh, is it definitely a possibility? Because there's a myriad of events going on. So basically, if you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the channel to keep notified. If you've enjoyed this, so first of all, thank you for those who have followed along and joined us throughout this chaos and madness. Peter and I will hopefully be back in a month, maybe with someone, maybe not. We will double check on all the schedules on that. But again, thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to keep up to date. If you've enjoyed this, please leave a little like and a comment, as it helps the promotion. And as ever, Pete, thank you for bumbling through this with me.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, and as usual, good times and failing well.
Yes, and like it's one of these things that I always come off of these calls being like, we didn't get exactly as far as we wanted to, but every time I feel like I've learned something coming off them, which is important.
100%.
And I'm also very aware, as you will have seen, I'm sure you read my post for Salesforce Ben not that long ago about the new features in summer 25, but TypeScript is in there.
Yeah.
TypeScript for LWC. So we might have to look into that at some point and how we can do that now that we're TypeScript experts.
Somebody like some really enterprising person needs to write a book on TypeScript in Salesforce, or like start up a TypeScript like for Salesforce developers class.
I have thought of that myself, but I'm not enterprising nor smart enough, is the honest answer.
And I'll just put it out there. If someone wants to write that article for Salesforce Ben, I will totally rubber stamp that. Very cool. I think one of the best parts is leaving on the well put together pun of the O cliffhanger. So
the O cliffhanger.
I will be taking that with me.
It's yours to use, beg, borrow, and steal as you wish. Cool. Thanks everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks everyone. Bye.